Have you ever gone to a beautiful restaurant, maybe one you've been really looking forward to trying for weeks, and you sit down, you open the menu, and suddenly your brain just completely freezes?
Oh, absolutely. It happens to the best of us.
Right. The waiter steps up, smiles, and asks that terrifying question, "May I take your order?" And you know exactly what you want to eat. You can literally picture the food, but suddenly the words just vanish.
You just panic and say yes.
Exactly. Well, don't worry, you are definitely not alone. Today, we are taking a deep dive into a really fascinating stack of source material that argues this isn't a vocabulary problem.
Not at all. It's a psychological one.
Right. And to solve it, we are decoding the secret to flawless restaurant English.
Which is why this deep dive is custom tailored for you, the listener. Whether you are traveling abroad, actively learning English, or, you just want to feel completely comfortable ordering your next meal.
Because it can be really stressful.
It really can. And the source material we have today is brilliant. It's a guide called Essential English for Dining and Restaurant Conversations.
But the best part is the methodology. We aren't doing boring grammar rules today.
No, not at all. Instead of just memorizing lists, we're going to follow a realistic, story-based scenario featuring two diners, Rahul and Neha.
We're basically going to shadow them, right?
Exactly. Unpacking the exact phrases they use from the moment they walk in the front door to the moment they leave.
Which is such a smart approach, because before you can actually eat anything, you have to get a seat.
You have to establish your presence in the space.
Right. So we start right at the front door. Rahul and Neha walk in. They give a simple greeting, just good evening. And then the source highlights our first major key phrase.
And it sets up a really interesting comparison.
It does. Okay, let's unpack this. The source sets up a mini challenge. It compares saying, "give table," with saying, "we'd like a table for two," or, "is there a table available?"
Yeah.
But here is my pushback on this. Let's say I walk into a restaurant, I hold up two fingers, and I just say, "give table."
Okay.
The waiter knows exactly what I mean, right? The actual communication was
The
successful.
literal message got across, sure.
So why does the grammar actually matter here? Is it genuinely about being correct, or is it just about the social vibes?
What's fascinating here is that it's entirely about the psychology of politeness.
Okay, how so?
Well, think about how the human brain processes requests. Give table isn't just grammatically incorrect, it's an imperative command.
Like an order.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in human psychology, when a stranger issues a blunt command, it creates immediate friction.
Oh, I see.
It triggers this micro-defensiveness because you are essentially stripping the waiter of their autonomy.
So it's less about the grammar rule and more about you don't want to sound like you are issuing a royal decree to a servant.
Precisely. And this is where the source emphasizes using modal verbs.
Modal verb.
Yeah, those are helper words. Things like would, could, or might. They express possibility rather than an absolute demand.
So instead of give table, it's we would like a table.
Right. By inserting would like, you mechanically create this buffer zone. It's a layer of hypothetical distance between you and your demand.
It softens the whole interaction.
It shows respect. And in the hospitality industry, showing that baseline respect immediately changes the level of service you receive.
Because you've established yourself as a polite guest, not a threat.
Exactly. You start the social interaction off on the right foot.
Okay, so you've successfully claimed your table, you've set a good vibe, but then you hit the next major psychological hurdle.
The menu.
The menu. You open this thing up and suddenly it feels like a massive test of your vocabulary.
Oh, it's incredibly overwhelming, especially in a second language.
Right. In our story, Neha looks at the menu and her first reaction is literally, there are so many options.
Which is such a relatable feeling.
It really is. And the source suggests using a specific shortcut here, which is asking the waiter, what would you recommend? Or what's today's special?
Yes.
And honestly, to me, asking for recommendations is like asking a local for directions instead of staring at a confusing map.
That's a great analogy.
It's the ultimate shortcut. You don't need to translate every single word. You just crowdsource the answer from the expert standing right there.
But what happens in those moments before you make that decision?
Right, when the waiter asks if you're ready, and you are still totally lost.
The silence in that moment feels incredibly heavy.
It really does. You feel so rushed.
Exactly. Your brain feels the pressure, which is why the source includes these brilliant filler and bridge phrases.
Yeah.
Things like saying to the waiter, everything looks delicious, or turning to your friend and asking, what are you having?
Oh, so it's not just about making small talk.
No, these are strategic tools. I like to call them acoustic cushions.
Acoustic cushions. I love that.
Yeah. By using these phrases, You fill the silence with pleasant English. It tells the waiter, hey, I'm engaged. I'm not ignoring you.
Right.
And more importantly, it buys your brain 10 extra seconds to think without that awkward, heavy silence.
It just diffuses the pressure instantly.
Exactly. You build a social bridge at the table.
Okay, so you've bought some time, you've made your decision, but eventually you do have to execute the transaction.
You have to actually order the food.
Right. And this brings us to the core of the meal. So in our source, Rahul orders by saying, I'd like a pasta and a lemonade, please. And Neha says, I'll have a vegetable pizza and a cold coffee.
Classic choices.
But then the source throws another surprise challenge at us. It compares the phrase, bring pizza, to, could I get a pizza, please?
Right.
Now, I'm going to push back again.
Okay, let's hear it.
Because it seems like English relies so heavily on all this indirect phrasing. Is there ever a situation where it's okay to just say, I want a pizza? I mean, it is a business transaction. I'm paying for it.
It's a fair question. But if we look at English dining culture, the phrase I want sounds inherently demanding.
Almost childlike.
Yeah, exactly. English is usually pretty direct, but our politeness strategies in service environments are a massive exception. I want sounds like a decree.
Oh, right. Back to the royal decree.
Right. But using I'd like, or I'll have, states a preference politely. But the really golden standard here is, could I get?
Because it's framed as a question.
Yes, but also because of the tense. Could is the past tense of can.
Wait, really? Why do we use a past tense verb to ask for food right now?
Because stepping back in time adds even more of that hypothetical distance we talked about.
Oh, wow.
Can I get a pizza is very present and direct. Could I get a pizza is theoretical. It softens the request so much that it becomes the ultimate polite standard.
Okay, so let's actually have the listener practice this right now. If you're listening, try saying this out loud. Could I get a pizza, please?
Yeah, give it a try. Could I get a pizza, please?
It feels very natural once you say it.
It does. And the best part is, once you master could I get, you have unlocked a structural formula that you can use for the rest of the meal.
Because you always need to ask for extra things, right?
Exactly. A few minutes later, Neha needs extra ketchup and water. She doesn't have to learn new grammar. She just plugs new words into the formula.
Excuse me, could we have some extra ketchup?
Could I also get a glass of water, please?
It's basically a linguistic Swiss Army knife.
It really is.
You just swap out the noun at the end. Could I get a fork? Could I get a napkin? Or, as Rahul says in the story, could I get a small restaurant to take home?
Oh my gosh, yes. The dad joke.
I had to mention it. When the waiter asks if they need anything else, Rahul literally asks for a small restaurant to take home.
It is definitely a dad joke.
Yeah.
But, sociologically, it demonstrates something really important.
Which is?
When you feel completely confident in your structural formulas, your cognitive bandwidth frees up.
Oh, so you aren't panicking about grammar anymore.
Right. You aren't paralyzed by fear. And that allows your natural personality, even if it's cheesy humor, to actually come through in a second language.
That makes total sense. Okay, so we've seen how these formulas protect everyone's ego and keep things light when the meal is going well.
But the real world is messy.
Exactly. What happens when the restaurant actually makes a mistake?
Yeah, that's a stressful moment.
It really is. In our story, Rahul gets his pasta and it is cold. Now, complaining is inherently stressful. Doing it in your native language is hard enough.
Doing it in a second language can trigger a massive fight or flight response.
Right. You either want to just eat the cold pasta to avoid conflict, or you swing too far the other way and sound super aggressive.
But Rahul handles this perfectly.
Yeah.
He simply says, excuse me, this dish is a little cold, and the waiter immediately offers to replace it.
And here's where it gets really interesting. The source comes with a strict warning. In big, bold letters, it says, never say bad food.
Never.
Instead, it suggests saying, I'm sorry, but there seems to be an issue with my order. And to me, comparing those two phrases is like diffusing a bomb. If you use the wrong phrase, it blows up into an argument.
That's a great way to look at it.
Because when you say, there seems to be an issue, it's like moving from sitting across a table from the waiter to pulling up a chair right next to them. You are putting the problem on the table for both of you to look at together.
You're creating a collaboration instead of a confrontation.
Exactly. Instead of pointing a finger and saying, you gave me bad food.
Right. Because the brilliance of there seems to be an issue lies in its use of a dummy subject.
The dummy subject.
Yeah. By starting with the word there, you completely remove human agency from the sentence.
Oh, wow.
You aren't saying you cooked this wrong. You are treating the cold pasta like it's just a spontaneous malfunction of the universe.
Oh, look, a cold pasta has appeared.
Exactly. It shifts the dynamic entirely. It is no longer you versus me. It becomes you and me versus this objective issue.
That is so smart. It allows the restaurant staff to save face.
It keeps their defensive adrenaline from spiking
Yeah.
and recruits them to be your ally in fixing the problem.
So once you've turned that potential conflict into a collaboration and you've finished the main course, you've essentially survived the hardest part.
You really have.
The final phase is just sticking the landing, wrapping up with dessert and paying the bill.
Right.
So Nika finishes her pizza, but announces she is, of course, still hungry.
There's always room for dessert.
Always. So she orders a chocolate brownie. But the source includes a really interesting mini quiz right here.
I love this part.
The waiter asks them, "Would you like anything else?" And the quiz asks the reader, does this phrase mean, "Would you like to order something more?" Or does it mean, "Leave the restaurant"?
Which highlights a very common anxiety for language learners.
Right. The fear of misinterpreting a polite cue to leave.
Of course, it just means, would you like to order something more? But the anxiety comes from not knowing those unwritten rules of the dining room.
So they finish the brownie, and it is time for the final transaction. The source gives us a rapid-fire list of essential phrases to conclude the evening.
Right. Things like, could we have the bill, please?
Can I pay by card?
Keep the change.
And finally, thank you for the service.
Notice how we return right back to that polite modal verb formula.
Could we have?
Exactly. It works at the beginning for a table, in the middle for water, and at the end for the bill. It truly is the structural backbone of the whole experience.
It really is. So what does this all mean? The source distills this entire, potentially terrifying hour-long experience into just 5 easy steps.
The 5-step framework.
Right. Greet politely, ask for a table, order confidently, ask politely for needs, and thank the staff.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm someone who gets incredibly nervous about speaking English in public, how does boiling it down to a 5-step framework actually help?
Well, you've hit on the neurological benefit of the framework. We talked earlier about your brain freezing when you open a menu. That freeze response is your amygdala detecting a threat. In this case, the threat of social embarrassment.
The fear of messing up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When you view a restaurant visit as this endless, unpredictable dictionary of vocabulary, your amygdala senses chaos.
Right. Anything could happen.
But when you boil it down to 5 predictable milestones, you are essentially overriding that fear response.
You're giving your brain a map.
Precisely. You know exactly what is going to happen next. The waiter isn't going to suddenly ask you about, macroeconomics.
Right.
They're going to ask for your order, ask if you need anything else, and bring you the bill. Mastering this framework turns a chaotic environment into a totally predictable routine.
It drastically reduces your cognitive load. It changes the restaurant from a pop quiz into an open book test.
That is a perfect way to phrase it.
And as our source enthusiastically points out at the end, good food fills your stomach, but good English fills your confidence.
I love that quote.
Me too. You really don't need to be a grammar expert. You don't need to know the difference between a past participle and a gerund to order a pizza.
No, you just need to practice these realistic, polite scripts. It's all about applied knowledge, not textbook memorization.
Absolutely.
But this actually raises an important question, and it's something I'd love for you, the listener, to ponder after we wrap up today.
Okay, let's hear it.
If learning just a few structural, polite phrases and understanding the psychology of hypothetical distance can completely eliminate the anxiety of dining out,
Yeah.
where else can you apply this? Think about other high-stress, everyday social interactions.
Oh, like visiting a bank?
Visiting a bank, dealing with customer service on the phone, or even attending a professional networking event.
Wow, yeah.
What other overwhelming environments could you completely master by simply identifying the 5 predictable milestones of that specific space?
That is such a powerful thought. Every stressful situation is really just a predictable framework waiting to be decoded.
You just have to find the milestones.
Yeah. Exactly. So the next time you go to a beautiful restaurant and you open that menu and the waiter walks up and says, "May I take your order?" your brain is not going to freeze.
Not at all.
You are going to use your acoustic cushions, you're going to deploy your modal verbs, and you're going to actually enjoy your meal.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Go out there, decode your next social interaction, and we will catch you next time.